Hello and welcome back to this course on capital budgeting and investment decision finance. In this section, we are going to talk about internal rate of return (IRR) method, which is an alternative to compare to the net present value, the most rule which is mostly followed by the company. So how do we calculate the IRR? As we have seen briefly in our earlier example, the IRR is where the net present value of the discounted cash flows become zero. So let's explain this a bit with the example. So here you will see on the screen that there are four cash flows. So the project's IRR is where it generates the cash outflows equal to the investment amount. Here you have a project investment is $5,000, cash outflow 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000. So total cash outflow is $3,000, $6,000 cash inflow, and cash outflow is $5,000. At what rate this 6,000 becomes equal to 5,000 in 0 year? So you have to calculate net present value, but here the problem is you don't know the rate, so you cannot do the discounting. But let's write down the formula first. So this is the period of receiving, and then IRR will be the amount at which the present value of three cash flows equals to 5,000, right? So the decision rule in how we calculate this, we're gonna learn in a bit of time. So the decision rule for internal rate of return, usually if it's a standalone project, if IRR is more than the cost of capital, normally we accept if IRR is, i.e. net present value is positive. If IRR is less than the cost of capital, then we will reject it, i.e. the net present value is negative. It works the same way. However, the companies, they may have a cost of capital which is slightly higher than the discounting their expected rate of return. So if the my expected rate of return from this project is, let's say, 20%, either I can calculate the IRR, whatever is the IRR. If IRR is less than 20%, then I will reject the project, right? Or I can calculate the net present value at 20%, and then if it's become negative, I will reject a project. So both are the same. So IRR and net present value usually use the similar method. However, IRR has certain limitations which we're gonna discuss in the future. In mutually exclusive projects, higher IRR, we will be able to accept the project. Now let us take an example, and let us take a method. How do we calculate the IRR? So calculating IRR requires certain steps. First is, it requires trial and error method. You can use manual calculations, you can use financial calculators where you can just press the button and get the IRR, or you can use the Excel spreadsheets. Either way is fine. The first step in calculating the IRR is you have to guess the project's IRR, which usually you can use the company's weighted average cost of capital or expected rate of return, right? So you can calculate at the net present value at that particular rate, and then you will calculate the net present value, and then usually if it's zero, then it's a good guess. Usually it doesn't happen. If the NPV is higher than the zero, then you will make a second guess of with a higher interest rate, right? Because the net present value is still positive. Our idea is to make it zero. So you will assume a higher, maybe not, and normally we for the sake of easiness in calculations, we guess round off, right? So it's either 10%, 5%, 15%, or 20%, and then we normally add 5% as a gap, or maybe 10% as a gap for the second guess. Either it's higher by 10% or lower by 10%. If NPV is lower, then we have to make a lower interest rate here, right? And then you will be doing a average out formula to get the IRR. I will be posting the formula for calculating it in the next slide. The calculation goes as the following. Normally, same we look at the NPV profile. We calculate NPV at different rates, two rates, and then wherever it touch zero, normally we will be able to accept that. But that's a long method. So there is a shortcut. I will explain you that. The limitations of the IRR rule is that there are technical problems with the IRR. sometimes there are multiple solutions. When you will get the multiple solutions, wherever there are multiple investment outflows, then you will get multiple IRR. You get more than one IRR. You can have that. And then there's another solution is the reinvestment assumption. The IRR method assume that whatever cash we are generating, we will be reinvesting that at the same amount of same interest rate, which normally sometimes is not possible. Your reinvestment or the returns may not be reinvested into the project at the same rate, or may not be reinvested into another project at the same IRR rate. So there are normally fallacies in the IRR, right? By the law, by the survey, normally the CFOs prefer IRR and NPV, but IRR has got certain limitations. That's why normally NPV is the preferred method of investment. Payback is the last. So you normally are not using the payback period as a decision. If we go back to our Frederick's new project formula and calculate that fertilizer project and calculate the three different options, the NPV at 10% was 7.2 million. Payback as we calculated was 3 years, and IRR is 14 years. Now I'm still doing the formula for calculating the IRR, which I will explain to you. So in this case, normally since our cost of capital is 10%, IRR is 14%, we accept. So in all the years, all the method are giving us similar result that to accept a project. However, there may be certain situations where some of these method may give you a different reason, different result. Maybe payback will ask you to reject it. IRR may ask you to reject it because, or maybe there are multiple IRRs. In that case, usually you will follow the NPV.